Hi family, it's Teresa with the Shaman's Dream Project, back for part 2 of the, let's see, where am I going today? Nayarit adventure. I'm headed up for the Vision Quest. So yeah, I just wanted to, sorry for the first video on the plane. It's so difficult to film in any regard on a plane because there's like an announcement every 15 seconds. But then in addition to that, if you're somehow able to time your video between announcements, you've always got the face diaper police coming around and being Nazis. So, I guess I'll just wait for this announcement. And you can hear the recording. It's saying the face mask is mandatory, and you can bet you they've got they're watching on all these cameras in the airport to see who is and who isn't obeying. And as always, I refuse to obey. And at the same time, I make it a point to be as kind and compassionate with understanding, without judgment, without getting tangled up into the polarity in the charge, and just explain to the would-be I like to call them face diaper Nazis, but just explain to them, like, okay, so let me get this straight. So you are going to, take a decision on my behalf that I don't want to do. You're going to tell me that I can't breathe. So you're going to take my right to breathe. And let's say I was to lose consciousness, and because I'm not getting oxygen to my brain, and I'm lugging around all these heavy backpacks and things through the airport and rushing to get between flights and things like that. So I'm already kind of, winded, if you could say, or needing extra oxygen, more oxygen than I would need if my body were stationary. So that puts an extra toll on the body. And in the event that somebody should lose consciousness and they should maybe bust their head on the floor, whose blood is that on the floor? Is it the blood of the face diaper Nazi who actually caused that or facilitated that so-called accident? And then you need to go to the hospital to see if you have a concussion. So you have to pay for an ambulance, and then you have to pay for the x-rays, and you have to pay for the doctors, the radiologists to come in and analyze the x-rays, and then you got to have another doctor and this, that, and the other. By the time you're done with it, say several $1,000s hospital bills. Who pays for the hospital? Excuse me. They are spraying things on the planes. They're putting things in the air. Here in particular, there's a lot of smart dust. And I sat outside for like 15 minutes, so I got exposed to that. Chemtrails in the sky here too. So anyhow, who's responsible for all my hospital bills? If I had like accident insurance, I'd go to my insurance company and say, let me file a claim to have my hospital bills reimbursed back to me, the money I spent. Well then, the insurance company is going to do what insurance companies always do, which is they argue, get their appraisers in there and adjusters, and they come up with like 1,000 reasons why they can't pay your claim. And in one of them, in this case, would be because you did not have an accident. You consciously, knowingly, wittingly putting on this face mask deprives yourself of oxygen, which makes you lose consciousness, and then you pass out and hurt yourself. So it's not really technically an accident. And then on the same, on the other side of that, if you want to ask who's responsible, like for my hospital bills in this case, it's my blood, no matter what. You just caused harm to me. That's me that experiences the harm, right? So let's say that I go back to the person who made me put on this face mask, which could be any one of the members of staff here, and of course they could say, no, it's not me individually, although it is them individually that assumes moral responsibility for the harm that they do to others. But financially is a different story. They could say, oh, it's my company, my airline, or whatever, whoever's running the airport that's financially responsible. But at the end of the day, someone else is responsible if they force you to wear a face diaper, and you should suffer some kind of consequence as a result. Now, immediate consequences could be obviously loss of consciousness. Especially what's scary is if they're enforcing the face diaper Bill Gates mandate for the pilots. I wonder, it really does make me wonder, like, are pilots operating passenger planes and having their brains be deprived of oxygen and taking the chance that they could pass out in the cockpit? So we're talking about some very serious liability. Those are the immediate possibilities or outcomes. And then, of course, the long term, which, it's going to not be obvious straight away. It's going to be like, I don't know, maybe 6 months from now, you develop a lung infection, a bacterial infection from wearing face diapers. That's why I call them face diapers. It's literally breathing in your own shit all day, every day. And it will make you sick. I promise you that. So let's say I get like a lung infection, that's, say, 6 months down the line. I don't even remember the name or of the face diaper Nazis, or what airline it was I took, or which airport I was in. I don't know anything at that point, except for that I have a lung infection and I'm back in the hospital with more bills to pay. So this is going to tie into a series that I'm going to do called Natural Law. And natural law is it's a natural law. It's like the law that's given to us by the Creator, by the Prime Creator, by the Great Spirit, by God, Goddess, whatever you want to call that, the Creator of everything. So in this universe, we have natural laws. There's one called gravity. You may not know it, but gravity exists, whether you want to admit it or not. And if you want to pretend that it doesn't exist, go right ahead. Jump off or step off that cliff there and let me know how that works out for you when you have that meeting with gravity. Electromagnetism, also, the electromagnetics of the universe is also a part of the natural law. And then also, of course, the golden rule, the one that everybody's familiar with, which is do no harm unto others. So practice your free will choice so long as you do not infringe upon the free will choice of another. When you break any one of those natural laws, you will suffer the consequences. It's just no way around that. So if people understood the difference between moral responsibility and financial responsibility, I think it would be more difficult to find people that would be willing to violate someone's free will and force them to do things that cause harm to themselves. Now, insofar as this, let me illustrate this for the would-be Karens or face diaper Nazis. I love you, first of all. I love everybody, and whether we agree or not. But let me just, for the sake of argument, illustrate this. That, like, if I go into the Telcel office to top up my cell phone card and the face diaper Nazi in the front of the store refuses to allow me to enter, which is an illegal act, even according to man's law, because there is no law that says you have to cover your face. It's just, like I said, it's a mandate from Bill Gates' World Health Organization. But let's just say, he does that, and then if I have to top up my cell phone, I have to, comply with his face diaper nonsense. So I go in there and, if I suffer any consequences from that, like, okay, let me break this down because we've already covered the consequences, morally, financially, medically in this case. But this is just to break it down and make it super, super simple. Every choice I make, every decision I take, every time I exercise my free will choice, I and I alone suffer those consequences of that decision. If I decide to eat McDonald's and drink Starbucks every day of my life and then I suffer a heart attack at the age of 40, it's not the heart attack that killed me. It's my choices leading up to that killed me. So, and you cannot, even if you undergo like a voting ritual and pretend to delegate your responsibility for governing your mind to an organization called mind control, that's what it is, government is gubernamente, mind control. If you want to pretend that you can delegate the responsibility that you have for making your own choices about the decisions in your life, be that how you educate your children, what food is that you put on your table, whether or not you get vaccinations, and what kind of medical care is available to you, and then the list just goes on and on and on. Like every aspect of our lives is governed, not just our minds, but every single aspect of our lives is governed by government. So we pretend that we can delegate the responsibility for governing our lives to this organization. And I believe we are beginning to see, finally, after a couple thousand years of this dysfunction, we're beginning to see finally how it is that if we try to delegate the responsibility to another, that we still are the ones to suffer the consequences. Because in this case, we failed to make a choice. We failed to exercise our free will to govern our own minds and bodies and lives. And we go and vote for somebody thinking that they should set all the policies for us, and some unelected bureaucrats sitting in Europe in the World Health Organization, and some billionaires that have shit tons of money invested in the pharmaceutical industry, that those are the people that, like the health ministers in the World Health Organization, has responsibility for your health. No, love, you have responsibility for your health. Even if we try to pretend that we can delegate that responsibility to the World Health Organization, who ultimately is, if we do, listen to these quacks and criminals and people who are guilty of crimes against humanity that know nothing about health, absolutely nothing. I mean, just look at the health minister in Belgium. Just do a search for that and see what kind of photos you can come up with. It's really so in our face. But that's where it goes. That's where this road leads. So even what ends up happening after you participate in the ritual and say, okay, this congressman or that prime minister or that president has responsibility for me. This is my voting ticket. This is my ritual to say this person has responsibility. Do they really have responsibility? Do any of the people here in Mexico have their elected representatives with any kind of who's operating? Is it the presidents? Is it the elected officials? No, it's not. It's the unelected bureaucrats in the EU, in the UN, in NATO, in the IMF, in the World Bank, all the central banks. These people are making decisions and setting policies and pretending that they can take the responsibility from us for every single aspect of our lives. And we're going along with it. We're pretending that that's possible too. But now we're beginning to see how natural law works. And that says that even if you pretend you can delegate your responsibility to someone else, you have that free will choice to do that. But eventually the consequences will come. And we see that very loud and clear when we have a naturally occurring virus that is not outside of us. It's inside of us. It's our bodies created to detox our body. It's called the flu season, or el gripe. It's a normal part of our immune system. So we have this harmless virus, which is impossible to transmit. literally outside of an injection. If I have a coronavirus in my body because my body's toxic and my body makes this coronavirus to rid itself of the toxins, and then you take a syringe and draw my blood and stick it in the bloodstream of another person, and then that person, that's the only way you can transmit this coronavirus, this big scary coronavirus. This is the only way you can transmit it. And even then, the person receiving the injection, their body would be like, oh, this isn't my virus. I didn't make this. Flush this out. And nothing would happen. But again, if we took responsibility for governing our own minds, for doing our own research, for informing and enlightening ourselves, and making sure that we have the full truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And yeah, we have the opposing ideas. That's how we know what is true and what is not. But if we had the truth, then we would be able to make better informed decisions. And so, I'm gonna do a little bit more on this video when I get out of this noisy environment. But I believe that is sufficient enough for even the Karens out there to kind of understand what is basically fundamentally wrong about this situation that we're experiencing worldwide right now. And that is, we are suffering the consequences because failing to choose is also a choice. We always, always, always will suffer the consequences of our action or our inaction, of our choices that we make or the choices that we fail to make. It's just natural law that those repercussions, those consequences will come back. And not just to you in this case, but to your whole human family, because every single time that we participate in these rituals of hand gels and face diapers and antisocial distancing, we are lending the power of our actions to the agenda of false light. If you want to know a little bit more about natural law, I recommend you tune into my brother Mark Passio. If you want to learn a little bit more about how the germ theory was debunked 150 years ago and everything coming forth out of the mouth of the so-called experts is a total lie. And let me throw in about 95% of the people with the initials MD behind their name, they are also deeply confused because this information was suppressed. It didn't support the profits for the petrochemical industry. So I would also recommend in that regard to check out the work of Eustace Mullins and also Jordan Maxwell. And that should keep you busy for a while. Eustace and Jordan are prolific writers, scholars, and researchers and independent investigative journalists that basically uncovered all the shit we see going on right now. They already covered this like decades ago. But you're not going to find any of their books in the university. In fact, you'll struggle to find those books at all. So if you do want to check out any of those authors, and also check out this guy named Louis Pasteur, and I can't recall the name of his, I want to say colleague, but really it was more like a rival colleague, because Louis was trying to prove the germ theory existed and was real, and meaning using the scientific method that it is observable, measurable, and repeatable. That is the scientific method. Well, Louis Pasteur could not prove, using the scientific method, he could not prove the germ theory. But his rival colleague, and I can't recall his name, but I'll try to throw this in the show notes, he disproved that. He showed that it's the environment that's everything. Well, of course, this research was not sitting well with the petrochemical industry, whose profits depended on the ability to manufacture and sell drugs and pharmaceuticals and vaccinations to protect us against diseases. So yeah, that should be enough. I'll try to throw some links in the show notes. I may not get this video posted for a while though, because I'm going to be heading up to the Vision Quest on Saturday. So if I can get it posted before then, if not, I'll catch up with you, family, in November. Namaste. I love you very much. Bye-bye.